Today on How to Make Dinner, I'm cooking through Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat by Samin Nosrat. I'm a big fan of Samin Nosrat. I love her approach to cooking and food, so I was really excited to get my hands on this book. This book is a bit different from your average cookbook. For one, it is very much focused on strategies and techniques more so than recipes, although there are a fair number of recipes in there. But there are lots of really cool kind of grids and charts and matrices that you can use to kind of choose your own adventure. So it's really teaching the reader how to use ingredients and combine ingredients and different cooking methods in different ways, which I think is really empowering and I think is just a great approach. So love that. There are also lots of different variations of recipes. So it'll show you one way to make Persian rice, for example, and then she'll give you 3 or 4 different variations on how to put a spin on it. There are a lot of recipes that refer to other recipes. So if you're one of those people who struggle with that with cookbooks, where a recipe will call for a cup of some other sauce that's made on page 168 or whatever, and then you have to jump back to it. I don't know. I don't plan ahead very often, so I find that to be a little bit difficult. If I haven't read the whole recipe through, I get a little bit frustrated when I arrive at an ingredient. I'm like, oh crap, I have to make that whole thing separately. But it just goes to show that there are a lot of components of the recipes in here that are just building blocks. And I think that's great. Learning how to make building blocks that you can create tons of different recipes out of is awesome in general. So that's just a little note. Some of the recipes in here were made in ways similar to how I would make things at home on the weeknight. So minimum pot and pan usage, everything's done in one pan, one cutting board, you're good to go. Other things took many, many, many dishes. So there were certain recipes I didn't even make because I just didn't want to get 5 bowls dirty. So all that being said, my dishwasher is getting hooked up tomorrow, so I might change my tune on that. Some of them were really streamlined. Some of them were a little bit more designed for maybe working in a restaurant kitchen when you have someone else doing the dishes for you. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the recipes. I'm gonna start with an easy one and end with an easy one, and then shove the tricky ones in the middle. First up, I made the garlicky green beans. So I started off by just taking the tips off the green beans and then bringing a half a cup of water to a simmer in a large pot. And then once that was simmering, I put the green beans in and then kind of shimmied them around a bit and sprinkled in a good few heavy pinches of salt. And then altogether these took about 4 minutes, but I just kind of put the lid on, let them steam a bit, give them a bit of a toss around, and then repeat the process until I tasted one and it tasted almost perfect. While these were cooking, I was chopping 2 giant cloves of garlic. This recipe called for 2 pounds of green beans and I only used 1 pound, but I still used the same amount of garlic it called for. So I basically doubled the garlic. So once the beans were just about tender all the way through, I put a little bit of olive oil into the middle of the pan and added the finely chopped garlic to that. And then I decided that wasn't quite enough olive oil, so I just added a little bit more in for good measure. And after about 30 seconds or so, I just started tossing the garlic all through the green beans. And that was it. And these were salty enough because I added enough salt at the beginning, but I kind of wished that I didn't add enough salt at the beginning because I would have finished it with a little bit of crunchy sea salt, but that would have made it too salty. So note to self for next time, hold back a little bit on the salt and add crunchy salt at the end, just because I love it. These were delicious. They were just really nicely cooked green beans with garlic, super simple, can't go wrong, delicious. Next, I made the slow roasted salmon. So this is one of those ones where there's a few different variations, and I've made slow roasted salmon before and loved it. So I thought I would make her version, and I went with the Indian spiced version. So I started off with cumin seeds, coriander seeds, and fennel seeds and toasted those in a dry pan. And that took about 20-30 seconds until I could start to smell them. I made a few mistakes when I was doing this salmon, so just buckle up. Learn from my mistakes. After the spices were toasted, I added them to a bowl with quite a bit of turmeric and some cloves. And at this point, I remembered, crap, I was supposed to grind the seeds first, obviously, before adding the powder. So I just dumped the whole thing in the mortar and pestle and then added the oil to make a paste. But there were still some crunchy seeds that I would have preferred to be a little bit smaller. And then next was to take out the pin bones, which is a little bit of a practice thing. I have these fish tweezers that makes it pretty easy, but sometimes you miss bones and it's not always that obvious where the bones are. They're kind of all in one little row, but it's still tricky. And then I just took the spice paste and kind of spooned it all over the flesh of the salmon. And this was mistake number 2. I was supposed to put salt on the salmon before adding the paste, which I forgot. And I tried to get the rub kind of all the way under the salmon as well. And then the oven was preheating to 225. This is another mistake. I told you. I read the recipe kind of quickly and I thought that it said 1 to 2 pound salmon fillet and then cook it for 45 to 50 minutes. But it actually said 1 2-pound salmon fillet cook for 50 minutes. So my salmon fillet was only 1 pound. So 45 minutes was way too long. Here's a little piece of wisdom. People say that it's almost impossible to overcook salmon when you slow roast it, and I'm here to tell you that it is fully possible. If you cook your salmon to 145, which is what the FDA recommends, even if it's slow roasted, it's gonna be kind of dry. So this salmon was way overdone because I was doing so many other things. I was juggling the other recipes and cameras and you know how it is. So I cooked it for like close to 50 minutes, maybe 55 because I just got sidetracked. And when I pulled it out, it was pretty dry. So that's a lesson to us all. I still ate it. I made a little yogurt, cilantro, salt sauce and just used a lot of it with every bite of this salmon. So I decided to try it again. This time I cooked it for 35 minutes instead of 45 to 50 minutes. And I used the basic slow roasted method that Samin has in there, which is just roasted on a bed of herbs. Onto the bed of herbs, I sprinkled a little bit of salt and some oil. She didn't tell me to do that, but I just thought it would be nice to have a little something underneath the salmon and kind of help work with the herbs a little bit. And then I just laid the salmon on top, sprinkled it with salt and rubbed it with a little bit more olive oil. And yeah, like I said, roasted it for I think it was about 35 minutes in the end. I did check the temperature and it was about 140 and it was still kind of dry. All in all though, it was much better than the first one. I think to slow roast salmon or to cook any salmon with guaranteed success, you should use a thermometer. I don't care if it's slow roasted, grilled, broiled, pan fried. If you use a thermometer, you know that you're gonna get a juicy salmon. And I recommend this thermometer. I've talked about it before. I do get a little commission if you buy them through my link. This is a Thermopop from ThermoWorks, and I really just think they're the best thermometers you can get your hands on. They have a whole bunch of different models and types, so I'll leave the link in the description for that. I might roast another salmon before this video goes live, and if I do, I'll add it in. Little update, I did make the salmon again for a third time, mostly because I was just frustrated by the fact that I'd made dry salmon twice. I just made a little bed of herbs and used a lot of salt and oil, and I roasted it at 225, and it took about 25 minutes till it was 125 degrees or so, or 130. And it was good. It's also worth mentioning that I am in the Pacific Northwest, which means I have a lot of access to wild sockeye salmon, which behaves way differently than like a farm salmon or any other kind of salmon. It's a lot less fatty and it dries out easier, that's for sure. So keep that in mind if you're slow roasting salmon, and yeah, go by temperature, not by time. I think that would be my biggest bit of advice. But it was really delicious in the end, and I took some of it and folded it into my scrambled eggs, and that was really good for breakfast this morning. The next recipe I made was the Persian rice. I decided to go with the saffron flavored one. I have never made a tahdig before, and I was really excited to try it. All that being said, this was a Friday night at the end of the work week, and I maybe should have not done it that night because I was kind of tired and rushing for dinner and trying to get dinner on the table, you know, but I went for it. First off, I brought a bunch of water to a boil in a large pot, and then I rinsed the rice really thoroughly in a separate bowl, added a lot of salt to the water, and then added the rice in. And it said to cook it for about 6 or 7 minutes, just to kind of par cook it. I definitely left it a bit too long. I left it about 8 minutes and maybe even 9. It was fine though. And then I ground up a pinch of saffron and a little bit of salt in a small bowl, and then added some hot water to that to make a little tea. I drained the cooked rice really well and rinsed it, and then dumped the rinsed rice into a large bowl, mixed in the saffron tea, and then I took about 1 cup of the rice, put it aside, stirred in a few tablespoons of yogurt, mixed that together really well. And then now comes the part where we actually cook the thing. So a few tablespoons of butter, a few tablespoons of oil into a non-stick pan. I was way too chicken to use any other kind of pan for this. And this is a lot of fat. I guess you really need it to get that brown crust. So it's all good with me. I'm fine with that. So I poured the yogurty rice into the bottom of the pan and spread that out really well. And then on top of that went the rest of the rice. And honestly, I wasn't sure if this was all gonna fit into this size pan, but it fit, it was fine. And then I just kind of leveled it out, packed it in a little bit. And then the deal here is that it's supposed to sizzle all the way around, and you're supposed to see the bubbles, and you're also supposed to poke 5 or 6 holes into the rice as well so that you can see bubbles in where the little hole spots are. So I could definitely see the bubbles in the holes, but I never did see bubbles around the edge, and I think that that might have been part of my demise. I was using my induction burner, which I still haven't quite mastered because I don't really know what medium heat, high heat, low heat is on that thing. It's kind of seems to always be super smoking hot or super low. I had it kind of sizzling to what I thought was about right, and I let it go for about 15-20 minutes. At which point it started to smell a little bit more brown than I would have liked. It was supposed to continue to cook for like 35 minutes. So I got freaked out and decided to take it out early. So now's the moment of truth. I have to flip the thing out and see what I've got. And yeah, it was a little burnt. Just a touch. No worries though, all I did was invert it back into the pan and we just ate the rice that was on top. We just left the burnt pancake at the bottom behind. Oh, it was kind of disappointing, but this is a good moment to talk about expectation setting with cookbooks. Just because something is written in a recipe, and I will say that this cookbook is very well written in terms of instructions. It's very clear. She doesn't leave much guesswork. All the steps are laid out pretty well. But sometimes you have to make things a few times before it turns out. Sometimes you have to get good at something. Something like a tahdig, I'm sure, is something that takes years to really get good at, right? So I'm not super bummed that it didn't work out for me perfectly the first time. I am excited to make it again. And I think that I'll make it better next time, but I'm totally prepared to have a lot of, you know, stuck bottoms, burnt bottoms, not cooked enough bottoms, falling apart rice that doesn't hold together in a cake, and that's totally, totally fine. The last thing I made was the peanut lime dressing, and I'm a huge sucker for peanut sauce. I will take peanut sauce over almost anything else most of the time. So I was really excited to make this one. So I started by juicing a couple limes. And it said to make it in a blender or food processor, but I of course took a shortcut and just did it with my stick blender in a measuring jug. So lime juice, garlic, ginger went into the measuring jug, and then some fish sauce, soy sauce, rice vinegar, a bit of oil, a few tablespoons, and then I used that oily spoon to dig into some peanut butter. And that was a 1/4 cup of peanut butter. And then I just used the stick blender to give it heck. And I just find that this is so much easier than dirtying a whole blender or a whole food processor. And it was absolutely perfect. And you know what? It's really, really good drizzled over those garlicky green beans. It's also really delicious as a dip for veggies, especially cucumbers. My overall thoughts on salt, fat, acid, heat are, it's great. I'm really happy I own it. I'm really excited to try some other techniques that I've never done before, like the Persian rice. I'm excited to make that again and again and hopefully get pretty good at it. I'm excited to make some of the other sauces. She's got some really interesting sauces in here. Overall, I think it's a great one to have on the bookshelf, and I look forward to keep cooking out of it. That's it for my salt, fat, acid, heat test drive. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you have any other cookbook suggestions for me, because I know that you love these cookbook roundups and I really like making them. So leave those suggestions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.